USA Bowling presents the Bronze Level Student Certification Program with Coach Fred Borden and the voice of men's and women's professional bowling, Denny Schreiner.
Lesson number 4 features scoring, and Fred, we get a chance to look back into the archives here to the very first score projector invented by Brunswick.
Just think, Denny, some of the greatest players in the history of our sport use this score right here.
Well, some of the relics here, some of the old scoring apparatus, and what's interesting here about the hall is the fact that we can leave the 19th century, walk right into the 20th century, and scoring is now computerized.
Yeah, Denny, this is state-of-the-art right here. This fills the needs of every player. And except maybe one little item that I like to see a player keep their own score. While you're bowling in league play, in fact, this score here, the computerized score, keeps your score for you and leaves you free to keep your score. Then you can take it home with you, and you can look it over and say, gee, I missed 3 10-pins tonight in league play. Maybe I better go out and practice making the 10-pin.
Right, that would be a bad report card. If you bowled well, it would be a nice report
exactly.
card. All right, let's now talk about a couple of different things. I want to discuss one fact, though, and touch on something right off the top, is the fact that, Fred, scoring is not difficult. You shouldn't be afraid to try and score.
It really isn't, Denny. There's only 3 symbols in scoring, and I think you can learn scoring in a week or 2. It's a very easy thing to do.
Let's get down to the basics right now, the 3 different elements or ingredients in keeping your own score in the game of bowling. The one that I like the best, obviously, is the strike.
Yes, Denny, the strike. And a strike equals 10. And that's where you get up, you throw the first shot, you knock all 10 pins down with 1 shot. And a strike equals 10 plus the next 2 shots. And that's all there is to a strike, 10 plus the next 2 shots.
All right, what about if I throw a shot, say, and maybe knock down 8 pins, and on my second shot I pick up the 4-7, and I knock down all 10 pins in 2 shots?
Now you have a spare. You threw the first shot, you knocked down 8, you made the 2 that were standing. That's when you knock down all 10 pins with 2 shots, and it also equals 10, the same as a strike. The only difference between a spare and a strike, it's 10 plus 1 shot for the spare, and a strike, it's 10 plus 2 shots.
Coach, we've talked about the good news, the spare and the strike, but what happens if I throw a couple of shots and I don't knock down all 10 pins with 2 balls?
Okay, we call that the dreaded open frame, Denny. That's where you always leave some pins standing. You throw 2 shots and you leave something standing.
All right, now that we've gone ahead and discussed those basic elements, what we would like to do now is to invite each and every one of our students to grab a pen, a pencil, and a piece of paper and basically score a game with us. We're going to take you right from the first frame all the way through the 10th, give you some idea as to how easy it is. If I can do it, believe me, all of you can as well. So what we'll do is here, have a little fun. I say that Denny Schreiner is bowling his very first game, and maybe I walk up after the outstanding instruction of Coach Borden and throw a strike in the first frame.
Then in it, and a strike equals 10, plus the next 2 shots. So obviously we can't mark anything down yet.
Okay, now I've enjoyed throwing a strike in the first so much that I'm going to double, and I'm going to throw one in the second.
Wow, those lessons did work, didn't
Yes, they did, very nicely.
So in the first frame, it was 10, plus the next 2 shots.
Okay, which means that I can't put anything down in the first frame.
Exactly, because you've only thrown 1 shot.
All right, now the knees are knocking basically in the third, and even though I'm a confident player, I'm going to throw a shot maybe a little bit right, and I'll give myself an 8 count.
So we have the first frame.
Okay.
The strike is 10.
Right.
Plus 10, plus 8.
So that gives me 28 in the first.
Exactly. It was 10 plus the next 2 shots.
Okay, now can I put anything in for the second frame?
Not yet, Denny. You've got 10 plus the next 2 shots.
Oh, that's right. A strike is 10 plus the next 2 shots, so I've got 8, and obviously I'm not too shaken. I'm going to give myself a spare.
Now we can mark the second frame. Equals 10 for the strike.
Right.
Then we have the 8 plus 2.
So that's 20.
Exactly, on to 28.
Right. So I have 48 in the second.
Well, you're doing pretty good.
Not too bad at this point in time. I'm scoring very nicely at this stage, but obviously I'm a little overconfident now as we head into the 4th frame. I don't make the right adjustment, and I'm going to give myself a 7 count there.
Okay, now a spare equals 10 plus the next shot. So we get the next shot, don't we? 7. So the score would be 17 in the 3rd frame. Added to the 48.
Gives me 65.
Exactly. Just remember that a spare always equals 10 plus the first ball of the next frame.
Okay. And, well, I guess you could say that the Adam's apple is getting a little large at this point, and we've not thrown a good shot in our spare attempt. I don't get any in the fourth besides the 7 that I knocked down.
Now we have 7 and 0, so we add the 7 to the 65.
So I'm at 72 right at this point in time.
Not bad, not bad.
Which is not bad at all. We're nearing the halfway stage. So you see, it's really not that difficult to score at this point. And as I bounce back here in the 5th frame, I'll go ahead and say that I left a solid 5 pin. So I'll have a 9 count in the 5th.
Okay.
And nobody in the history of the sport of bowling has ever missed the 5 pin.
No, so let's not do it now then.
Right,
okay,
so we don't want to break that record. I'll spare myself.
Okay, now a spare equals 10.
Okay, so I can't put anything in then in the 5th frame.
Not yet until we throw the next ball.
All right, I've come back, found my align one more time, and so I'll give myself an X, a strike in the 6th frame.
So now we got 10 for the spare. Okay. Do the first shot, we knock down 10, score would be 20.
All right, so 20 plus 72 would give me 92 at this point through 5 frames. Not a bad game.
Well, we get some strikes working too.
All right, now let's move on into frame number 7. And just for the sake of mixing things up a little bit, as I'm usually confused when I play, we'll have a 6 count.
Oh, a little nervous shot up and threw it out the window. Maybe wrapped the arm a little behind the back, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So it's 10 for the strike, plus the next 2 shots.
All right, well, I've got 6.
Can't mark anything down then, can we?
No, we can, and I didn't convert. I only got 2 on the 2nd shot.
Okay, so the strike was 10 plus 6 plus 2, or 18 added onto your 92.
So which would be 110.
Correct.
All right, 110 in the 6th.
Now the 7th's already completed, if you notice. So you add the 6 and the 2 is 8.
It was completed much too early as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, I can see why.
You know, it's more fun scoring strikes and spares.
Yeah, and it's harder to add those opens up.
Yeah, no fun either. So now in the 7th frame, I have a grand total of 118, which is still a little ahead of my average, so I'm feeling pretty good at this point. 8th frame, we'll go back to spares in the 8th, as I'll give myself an 8, and I leave the 4-7, and hit my key pin, which is the lead pin, the 4 pin.
Yes.
Which goes into the 7.
Correct.
And that's a spare in the 8th.
And a spare equals 10.
Right.
Plus the first ball of the next frame.
Which would be the 9th frame. And, well, I decided to move a little bit and move out and play outside the first arrow.
Just a little.
Yeah, I adjusted the hair too much and threw that long straight shot. I threw the ball in the gutter.
In the channel right for Mr. Schreiner. He wrapped it behind his back.
Yes, it's ball in,
yes, yeah, arm
out.
Yes.
Or arm in, ball out.
You got it.
Okay, obviously. So in the 8th frame, I have 10 on the spare, and it's always 10 plus the next ball.
And we got 0.
You're right.
So it's 10 plus 0.
What do you mean we got? I got the 0.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay. That gives me 128. But shaken as I was, I still came back and hit the pocket on my fill ball and got a 9 count.
Left the ringing 10 pin.
Yes.
And we add the 9 onto the 128.
Because of the open frame. Now that's if you look back at the score, that would be my 3rd open frame. I had an open frame in the 4th, an open frame in the 7th, and an open frame in the 9th. And when we say open frame, that's anything other than a strike or a spare.
Correct. And you know, now you could take this home with you. You could sit down and check your report card.
All right, and I could say that I started very quickly, faltered in the middle, but came back strong with the board and instruction as we headed into the 10th frame. I have a strike in the 10th.
And we call this the bonus frame, Denny, the 10th frame. Remember, a strike is 10 plus the next 2 shots.
All right.
So you got a strike, so now you get 2 more shots.
Right. Now I'm hot. I've got things going. My confidence is rising. I've got the 36-inch arrow from the right shoulder. I strike again in the 11th, much to your surprise.
Great. So now it's 10 plus 2 shots. Remember, your first shot in the 10th was a strike.
Right.
So now you've only got 1 shot. You only threw 1 more strike. So now you get 1 more shot.
Okay, and I'm going to close out big. I'm going to throw the best shot of the entire game, and I'm going to strike myself out here with the final shot in the 10th. But I'm a little bit confused at this point.
How's that, Denny?
Well, that's because I've got 3 in a row. I'm not really sure what I need to put down here in the 10th frame.
Okay, well, it's just 10 plus the next 2 shots. It'd be 10, 20, 30. The game's over.
So it'd be 167, but I've got a strike here in the last frame. Don't I get a strike plus the next 2 balls?
The game's over, Denny. You're just going into the next game on a positive pulse. You can only throw 10 frames.
Okay, so the game is 167.
Not bad. Not bad for first game.
That's not bad at all. See, it's as easy as that. Scoring is not as difficult as everybody makes it out to be. And if you practice, that's the whole key. The more you practice score, the better you're going to get.
Exactly.
One of the other things that we talked about at the end of lesson number 3 that we want to develop now here as we head into the latter stages of lesson 4 is the handicap system. We talked about the fact that as good a bowler as you are, I could go ahead and assemble a team that might even compete against one of yours.
Yes, Denny, let's say that you had a team with an average 200 every player. That would be 5 players on a team times 200.
Be a good team.
Yeah, not bad, huh? 1,000 team average. A team average is where you take each individual average and you add them up, and the total sum of the 5 averages equal the team average. In this case, 5 200 averages equal 1,000.
All right.
Well, I got the Team USA, Denny. Well, you know, the best amateur team in the world.
I expected you to do that.
Yes. And we have 1,050 team average. 210 per player times 5, or 1,050.
All right.
So now we take the 1,050 from the 1,000. Our team average is 50 pins higher than your team average.
Right.
We're going to use the 90% handicap system. So we take the 50 pins times 90, or we're going to spot you 45 pins a game.
You mean you're going to give us 45 pins to even things up before we even throw a ball?
Exactly. You're going to have a 45 pin jump start on us.
I like that.
Yeah, I figured you would. Yes. Now let's say that we bowled the game, and you bowled 10-20. Let's say you bowled a 1,020 game, your team.
All right.
You're going to add the 45 pins.
So that gives me 1,065.
Correct. Now, Team USA would have to bowl 1,066 to win that game.
Which is probably what they would do.
Well, I'm sure.
Well, that's all fair and well, but basically, who's going to determine what the averages are? How do I know that you're telling me the truth?
Well, Denny, you join a national sports organization, and for men we call it the ABC, or the American Bowling Congress, and for women we call it the Women's International Bowling Congress, the WIBC. For youth bowlers we call it the YABA, the Young American Bowling Alliance, and you bowl in league play, and each league has a secretary that keeps track of every game you bowl for the season. And you walk into the center each week, your average is posted for you. What lanes you bowl on, who you're bowling against, your sanctioned average is posted, your team average is posted, and your handicap's posted. It's all set up for you.
You know what's great about that is the fact that you could chart your average from the very beginning of the season all the way through the end.
Yeah, not only from beginning to the end, Denny, but year after year you can chart your averages.
All right, just one final comment here before we leave you in lesson number 4. We've created a lot of brand new bowlers, Fred, some players that want to get out there and get into league play, and how difficult is that to do?
Well, Denny, you know, it's fun to get out and compete with your friends each week and socialize and have some recreation, some real fun and competition. And that's why we call bowling the very special sport.
Good luck, everyone, and it's time now for our grudge match. Are you ready?
Let's go do it.
This has been an ABC Eagle Productions program in cooperation with USA Bowling.